The pup quivered in my embrace, its coarse coat scraping my skin like a bundle of electrified thorns. Its pulse raced wildly, threatening to explode, while my own heart pounded in sync with that desperate terror. Encircling us, 3 figures prowled like predators on the prowl, their eyes fixed on easy game. Their chuckles cut through the air, resonating along the empty highway with a spine-tingling ring. As they advanced, the gap narrowed, and the atmosphere felt suffocating. Escape wasn't an option. One reached out mockingly, his tone laced with malice. "Drop it, darling. Pups don't tolerate fibbers." His companions erupted in guffaws, savoring my dread like a no-cost evening show. I clutched the little one closer to my body, disregarding the strain in my limbs and the immobilizing grip of anxiety on my lower body. Canines didn't frighten me. It was brutes like these, spotting a solitary female on a barren stretch and assuming they could dictate her destiny. That chilled me to the core. I parted my lips to utter a word, any plea to halt them, but scarcely a sound emerged. Abruptly, twin beams of illumination pierced the gloom. Sharp rays sliced the tableau, trailed by the steady growl of a robust motor. A sleek black SUV braked sharply mere yards distant, its wheels spraying wet gravel from the pavement. The door on the driver's side swung open steadily, as though this icy evening held no peril or haste. A lanky figure emerged from the car. No yells or profanities escaped him. His tone remained even. He simply positioned himself upright and composed, exuding a subtle command far weightier than any menace. His stare pinned the trio, and in a steady, unwavering murmur, he commanded, "Beat it." That timbre, that rock-solid poise prompted even the boldest among them to retreat. Uneasy whispers supplanted their mirth. At last they withdrew, vanishing into the shadows like mist swept by a breeze. He shifted his attention to me. His face held an unnatural calm, improbable after such a charged standoff. His gaze assessed me methodically, ensuring I remained intact. That breath still filled my lungs. "Any injuries?" he inquired evenly. I shook my head, my limbs shaking as I cradled the pup. "Yours?" he probed, nodding toward the creature nestled against me. I forced down a lump and answered, "No, just picked him up." My words faltered there. He gave a single nod, as if that sufficed. He offered his palm, not toward me, but the animal. "He's terrified, just like you. Come on, I'll see you clear of this." Something in his delivery, a blend of command and kindness, shattered my defenses then. I trailed him to the SUV, refusing to release the pup. Once inside, the aroma of fine hide and fresh brew enveloped me. Heated gusts from the dashboard vents melted the frost that had clung to me for days, perhaps longer. He fine-tuned the rear views with exact motions, fired up the ignition, and eased forward. A profound hush enveloped the cabin, yet it differed from the ominous quiet of the outer road. This was no menace, but a haven where respiration came easy. The dog nestled in my lap, its shakes gradually subsiding. Mine followed suit. Time blurred until his words pierced the stillness. "Name." "Lena. Lena Brooks." "Nathan Crawford," he responded, gaze unwavering on the path ahead. No further questions came, no insistence on details. He simply guided the vehicle as urban glows receded and foliage loomed like murmuring barriers on either side. Eventually, we pulled up to a gated estate. Past the barrier rose a contemporary dwelling amid the forest, akin to a shard of overlooked crystal amid the brambles. Using a fob, Nathan unlatched the portal and proceeded along the driveway at a measured pace. "The guest cottage is yours," he stated plainly, as if granting refuge to an unknown was utterly routine. "It's apart from my place. You'll have privacy." I trailed him wordlessly. The pup, Chance, still secured in my hold. As he unlocked the entry, the fragrance of varnished timber and soft lamplight welcomed me. My legs nearly buckled. Mere hours prior, I'd braced for a night on some transit depot seat. Now I faced a fortified haven, solid boundaries free of condemnation. Nathan placed keys on the surface. Fridge has supplies, bathroom stocks, linens. Secure it after me. We'll discuss your needs come morning. He regarded me steadily a beat longer, then murmured softly, "You seem like someone who's gone ages without true rest." Words failed me. A lump swelled in my windpipe, for though a stranger, he'd pierced straight through. A lot. I managed just a whisper. "Thanks. You mean it." He dipped his head faintly and walked out, abandoning me to the steady drone of the heater and the soft snores of Chance, who'd already dozed off on the rug. I sank onto the bed's corner. My fingers were still shaking, but now it stemmed from something else. Pure relief. For the first time in ages, solitude wasn't my only companion. That delicate, wondrous sensation enveloped me, like an exhale I'd long believed was beyond my reach. That initial evening in the guest house, with the radiator's heat cradling me, recollections dragged me down like an unyielding current. I shut my eyes, yet quiet didn't come. Echoes from yesteryears filled the void instead. Everything traced back far earlier than that shadowy highway, way before Nathan and his steady stare. I came of age in a cramped flat over a tool shop in Portland, Oregon. It was only Mom and I. Dad vanished when I hit 5. No explosive arguments, no bags hurled from the landing, no dramatic showdowns like in films. Just a scribbled message on the counter and a drained savings account. That straightforward, that brutal. Mom wept for days on end. Eventually, her sobs ceased, and her expression turned rigid as granite. She pulled extra hours at the clinic, dragging in with her scrubs marred by fatigue, shadows etched beneath her eyes, and a fixed scowl of irritation. Still, she ensured I had textbooks, meals on the plate, and a shelter that stayed intact. I never expressed my gratitude sufficiently, though I witnessed her unraveling each evening. At 17, Mom crossed paths with Mark. He appeared upright, perhaps overly so. Initially, he felt like a blessing. He'd arrive with blooms, clear the plates post-meal, and chuckle heartily at the most basic quips. I yearned to trust him for Mom's benefit. She merited a partner to nurture her, to restore a fraction of the warmth existence had snatched away. Yet Mark's facade started splintering gradually. His remarks, once minor and subtle, sharpened into blades. He'd gripe about my footwear cluttering the entry, the fridge that's half barren, or how I slacked on chores. I attempted to brush it off, persuading myself I was exaggerating, but every barb sliced further. It wasn't laziness on my part. From 16 onward, I'd clocked shifts at a cafe on weekends, stashing cash for university, and when Mom fell behind on utilities, I'd pitch in. I wasn't flawless, but I gave it my all. Regardless, satisfaction eluded us. Mark tolerated me poorly, and though he never voiced it outright, his actions screamed it, through every motion, every sneer of contempt. I sensed my existence irked him, as though it highlighted a slice of Mom's history forever out of his grasp. The breaking point hit on an ordinary evening. I'd whipped up spaghetti, nothing fancy but prepared thoughtfully. Mark bolted upright, bellowing, claiming I'd picked the incorrect pot. I fired back, worn out by his barbs, and that's when he unleashed the line that seared me like scorching metal. "You're your father's spitting image, useless and primed to bolt at the first sign of hardship." I went rigid. Those syllables struck like thunder, but the true agony wasn't from his mouth. It was Mom's response. Rather than shield me, she pounded the surface and demanded I say, sorry, to him, the guy who'd likened me to our family's rawest ache. In that moment, a piece of me shattered irreparably. I dashed to my space, stuffed garments into a duffel, snatched my drawing pad and the funds I'd squirreled away. Mom trailed me to the threshold, her gaze stretched wide as if itching to halt me. But silence was her choice. Not one syllable escaped. She simply allowed my departure. That very night, I boarded a coach heading northward. I clutched an address jotted on a holiday greeting Dad had mailed at 13. I held on to that slim chance, despite recognizing its fragility, akin to a structure of tissue. Following endless miles, I reached a humble dwelling. A lady answered. Toddlers latched to her calves, her features weary yet gentle. She regarded me like she instantly recognized my identity, murmuring gently, "He's away. Hasn't been around in months. He's built a new existence." She permitted a night on her couch, but come morning, she requested I stay gone. Her tone held no malice. It was merely conclusive. Thus began my wandering, one locale to the next, chasing fleeting gigs, loaned bedding, a niche to squeeze into, if only briefly. The sole steady thread was the ache of rootlessness, and amid that void I wound up on that stretch of pavement, clutching a pup that wasn't mine, facing 3 figures who stripped me bare like the 5-year-old who'd eyed her dad fade into nothing. That was my legacy, unseen wounds that gaped anew whenever anyone underscored my inadequacy. The guest house hush ran so profound, I caught the radiator's persistent buzz and Chance's faint breaths, who had already nestled into a corner on the ground, claiming the spot like it was his own from the start. I remained perched on the bed's side, the backpack still strapped to my back, as though dropping it would force me to admit I was out of danger. My fingers shook not from chill, but from an unfamiliar sensation I hadn't known in ages. Ease. The bed beneath felt solid yet soft. The linens carried the fresh scent of laundry soap and fresh timber. It struck me as an impossible indulgence after those rigid bus depot seats, makeshift sofas from friends, or unforgiving surfaces where I'd crashed for the last couple of weeks. The refrigerator brimmed with provisions for a crowd: eggs, milk, loaves, and ripe produce. In the bath, fluffy white towels beckoned, far from the worn, scratchy rags I'd used for clandestine washes at coin laundries. It all felt excessively perfect, straightforward, almost dreamlike. I eased onto the mattress but kept my footwear on. The instinct to bolt at a second's notice steered my every move. I shut my lids and attempted to surrender to slumber, yet the recollections surged in. Mark's tone reverberated through my thoughts, that single line looping endlessly like a stubborn echo. "You're no better than your dad, useless and quick to flee when pressure mounts." My eyes snapped open, and pressure gripped my torso. Why did that cut so deeply? Because somewhere inside, I dreaded it rang true. I'd fled my family home, my mother, a history that choked the life out of me. I'd sought out my dad, only to discover no room remained for me there. Now, sheltered beneath an unfamiliar ceiling courtesy of a total stranger, I pondered if existence boiled down to endless flights. I propped myself upright once more, dragged my palms across my cheeks, and fought to root myself in the now. Chance shifted in his doze, emitting a faint whine. Gazing at him, I managed a faint smile for the first time in days, however tentative. He had no one watching over him either. Still, he dozed as though he'd discovered his niche. Perhaps that pup could teach me to embrace the instant, to believe despite the pain, despite the terror. Nathan's face resurfaced in my mind, his steady tone during the drive, his composure facing down those guys. No prying inquiries from him, no condemnation. He'd simply offered a haven. "You seem like someone who's gone without true rest for ages," he'd remarked, and that plain remark had shattered my barriers. Who was this man, truly? Why aid an unknown wanderer in the sticks? I pushed back against the notion that kindness could come without strings attached. Experience had schooled me in wariness toward the overly giving. Their toll always arrived eventually. The wall timepiece chimed 2 a.m., yet my gaze stayed locked on the overhead. The heater's glow started to coax me toward drowsiness, but whenever repose neared, a spike of doubt jolted me alert. "Don't settle in," I chided myself. "This isn't permanent, it's illusion. You'll depart come dawn." Yet a softer, more tentative whisper arose within. Perhaps not at first light. Perhaps things shift by then. At last, I burrowed beneath the covers, this round shedding my boots, a subtle yet profound concession. I sealed my eyes and allowed fatigue to claim victory, bit by bit. Visions of my weary mom, Mark's furious outbursts, my vanished father dimmed away, supplanted by the glow of that bedside light and the whisper of woods outside. Slumber didn't come profound, but for the initial time in weeks, dread didn't clamp down amid the shadows. And along that hazy divide, twixt alertness and dreams, with chance's breaths at my toes and secure shelter above, a long-lost spark rekindled, the possibility that room might yet exist for me here. Sunlit rays of dawn filtered via the cabin's pane as I stirred awake. Briefly, disorientation hit. I figured I was back at a transit hub or some lone settee, but then the reliable warmth from the heater registered, alongside the subtle aroma of polished oak and the steady wag of a tail against the boards. Chance, thrilled at my rousing, already signaled I had company. I rose deliberately, blending gratitude with wariness, the kind that comes from navigating uncharted turf. Uncertainty lingered. Bolt before Nathan reconsidered, or hold steady. A gentle rap at the entrance broke my reverie. Lena. No, Nathan's timbre, even-keeled as the prior evening. I stood and cracked the door tentatively. He stood there in a plain gray tee, locks still moist from a recent rinse. He motioned for me to trail him. "Meal set. Join at your leisure and fetch the pup," he added, nodding toward Chance, who bounded about me like he'd grasped the summons flawlessly. The aroma of brewed coffee and sizzling pork wafted over me the instant I stepped into the primary dwelling. The cooking space resembled a glossy periodical spread, complete with the expansive counters, pale timber accents, and sunlight pouring into every nook created an inviting space. Nathan plated up eggs and toast matter-of-factly, treating the shared breakfast with a total unknown, like an everyday occurrence. I picked at my food deliberately, a knot of unease twisting in my gut from taking what felt unearned. He stayed quiet initially, sipping his coffee without a word. After a bit, he nudged a dossier my way over the tabletop. "Here, this is yours." My fingers shook as I flipped it open. Within lay a straightforward agreement, outlining duties like routine tidying, washing clothes, occasional meal prep, and sorting the storage areas. No big demands, nothing out of reach. I glanced up at him, bewildered. What's this mean? Some kind of position? "I require help maintaining the property, and you could use a steady spot to land." His statement hit me like a wave, leaving me reeling. It came across as straightforward, not a sly welcome or pity, yet doubt surged immediately. "I'm no maid," I murmured softly in objection. "I manage cooking and housework, but—" Nathan met my eyes, his face stern yet kind. "That'll do. The other bits you can pick up." "Why put faith in me? You know nothing about my background," I pressed, wishing my words might deter him, though he merely lifted his shoulders. "I saw you rescue a lost pup and stand up to 3 brutes far bigger than you. That's recommendation enough in my book." Words failed me. I'd braced for wariness, questions, secret catches, but here he was extending work and shelter with effortless ease. Tears pricked at my eyes, which I rapidly blinked away. Drawing in a steadying breath, I whispered, "All right, count me in." For an instant his features eased, a subtle thaw in his usual composure. "Great, you're on starting now." He passed over a key ring and a bank card bearing his details for supplies and essentials. That daybreak, after ages without it, a long-lost warmth of security washed over me. I filled the time wiping down racks, arranging cupboards, and fixing a basic lunch. Chance trailed behind me constantly, ears perked as my devoted little sentinel. As dusk fell, I settled on the annex veranda, gazing at the sunset filtering through the branches. Chance dozed by my side, while I clutched the keys like prized heirlooms. They transcended mere alloy. They symbolized security, a haven where I could linger free from the dread of sudden eviction at first light. I reclined on the balustrade, exhaling deeply. Lingering skepticism whispered inside, insisting good fortunes fade fast, yet alongside it bloomed a fresh hope, a humble, fresh start. That evening, with Chance's gentle snores from his spot and my mind mapping tomorrow's chores, it dawned on me that perhaps, after endless flight, I'd stumbled upon refuge in the unlikeliest haven. The daily pattern wove into my life softly, like a persistent drizzle. Each dawn I'd grind bold brew, catch the faint noises from the primary dwelling where Nathan had risen early, then dive into duties, mopping floors, straightening rooms, whipping up modest dishes. Chance stuck to me like a devoted echo. The labor held no flash, but it restored a framework, a cadence I'd misplaced ages back. Within that framework, room emerged for a passion I'd shelved long before. One evening, rummaging my satchel, my hand brushed the frayed binding of a drawing pad. I'd lugged it through every flight and halt, despite avoiding it for moons. Page corners curled, some warped from damp, carrying a trace of faded pencil lead. I withdrew it carefully, akin to unlocking an abandoned chamber. Initially, I wavered. What point in sketching when that aspiration lay shattered? Yet the woodland's isolation and the outbuilding's peace urged me onward. I located a gnawed stub, the final one left, and began modestly. Chance's outline curled on the deck. My grip quivered, awkward at the outset, but gradually recalled its rhythm. Lines flowed once more, reclaiming a smoothness I'd believed gone for good. Dusk deepened to dark, unnoticed. Lifting my head, the space was shadowed, lit only by the tender marks on the sheet. Staring at it, emotion tightened my chest. Flawed as it was, it breathed vitality, and that hidden vitality on the canvas was a yearning I'd nursed endlessly. The following morning, tidying Nathan's central lounge, I set the pad aside on the surface. Returning, there he stood on the deck, examining it. Panic fluttered in my pulse. "Did you make this?" he inquired, angling it toward the glow to highlight each mark. I stiffened. "Yeah, apologies. It wasn't for your eyes." "No need to apologize," he replied evenly, his look moving from the sheet to mine. "You're talented, excellent. Truly excellent." A flush warmed my face. It had been ages since someone recognized that part of me. I shrugged it off, minimizing the moment. "It's only a pastime. I majored in accounting, something reliable." Nathan arched a brow as though his comment held up a reflection of my true self. "You come across like someone echoing expectations thrust upon you." I had no comeback. He hit the nail on the head. That evening, sleep eluded me. Nathan's remark echoed relentlessly in my thoughts. It went beyond him noticing me. He had affirmed a piece of myself I'd hidden away due to dread and circumstance. The following morning, upon his return from town, he carried a parcel tucked under his arm. He set it down on the kitchen surface and uttered, "This is yours." My fingers shook as I unwrapped it. Within lay a fresh assortment of pencils and a pad of pristine, blank white sheets. I drew in a sharp breath. "I can't take this," I faltered. "Nonsense, you can. You're putting in the effort. You've merited it. Think of it as a prepayment for your wages." A lump formed in my throat. Clutching the sketch pad against me, I could scarcely whisper, "Thank you." Nathan gave a single nod in his understated manner, no need for theatrics, and retreated to his study. I lingered there, staring at those empty sheets, like they represented an invitation. Perhaps they did. That very afternoon, with Chance stretched out beside me, I covered the initial page, followed by more. The woodland veiled in fog, the cabin bathed in dawn's warm glow, Nathan's silhouette while brewing coffee in the kitchen. Every sketch restored a fragment of who I was. It transcended mere lines on paper. It was my essence, my declaration of persistence. As the pencil danced across the surface, I sensed a shift within. The ache I'd harbored for years started to evolve. Creativity turned into my sanctuary, the quiet remedy I craved. That evening, as I tucked the sketch pad away with care, a genuine smile crossed my lips for the first time in ages. It was a serene afternoon. Sunlight pierced the branches, and I stood in the primary residence's kitchen, working dough for the meal, when the crunch of tires on the drive reached my ears. Chance, napping beneath the table, lifted his head and let out a single woof. I dried my hands on a cloth and glanced outside. A polished, gleaming silver vehicle straight from a showroom pulled up to the front. A statuesque, flawless woman emerged. Her raven locks were neatly pinned in an elegant bun, and her stilettos tapped sharply on the gravel walkway. She seemed out of place amid this tranquil spot and the woodland's peace, like a vision from a glossy publication. Nathan stepped onto the veranda right as she shut the door. I couldn't catch their initial exchange, but his stiffened stance and squared shoulders suggested this arrival was unwelcome. Nonetheless, he ushered her inside. My pulse raced. This isn't my affair, I told myself repeatedly, yet my steps led me to the corridor where I could eavesdrop unseen. Act like you don't understand my purpose here. Her voice was gentle yet cutting, akin to a blade concealed in silk. You're squandering effort on her. A shiver coursed through me. Lena's no concern of yours, Claire, Nathan countered. His reply carried an uncharacteristic edge, nearly frosty. She isn't. She's residing on your land, pretending domesticity, while you— Claire paused, likely sensing Nathan's intensifying stare. All I'm noting is you're standing. Folks gossip. The quiet that followed was thick enough to stifle my breathing. Let them gossip, he responded at last, each syllable resolute. You hold no authority over whom I assist or confide in. Claire's tone dropped to a poisonous murmur. Assist, that's your term for it. I couldn't bear to hear further. My hands quivered. Retreating to the kitchen, my gut twisted as though struck. That lady had voiced my deepest insecurity. To Nathan, I was merely a philanthropic endeavor, a figure to save and patch his own emptiness. The constriction in my neck nearly suffocated me. I struggled to complete the dough. That night, with the home hushed, I stuffed a compact bag. The impulse to flee surged anew intensely. I refused to weigh him down. I didn't wish to be the specter others wielded against him. As I nearly sealed the bag, a rap sounded at the entrance. Chance issued a wary growl. I halted, gripping the pack. Easing the door open, I found Nathan propped against the jamb. His face was unreadable. Claire's departed, he stated plainly. I dipped my head, dodging his eyes. She's correct. Perhaps I ought not to stay. He scowled. Don't presume to speak for me. His words rang with unprecedented strength. Stay! Breath fled from me. Meeting his eyes, I scanned for hesitation, but discovered only resolve. In a fractured hush, I questioned, Why stand up for me? You scarcely know me. Nathan met my look steadily, and for the initial time, a flicker of fragility pierced his typical composure. I know you sufficiently. You're a dedicated soul. You reject charity, and you've revived this home from its slump. I won't allow a single resentful opinion to sway you from that. My eyes welled up with tears. I collapsed onto the mattress, the knapsack next to me, while Chance nestled at my ankles, seemingly endorsing my choice. Nathan lingered in the threshold a bit longer, ensuring his message sank in. Then he departed, shutting the door with a gentle click. Alone now, my emotions surged within me. After so many years, someone had finally believed in me without strings attached or ulterior motives. That straightforward act of trust meant more to me than every empty vow I'd encountered before. That evening, I chose to remain. That evening, I committed. The period after Claire's arrival unfolded in a misleading tranquility. I stuck to my habits, cooking dishes, maintaining the tidiness of the house, and sketching quietly during any spare time. As for Nathan, he appeared more absorbed in his responsibilities than usual. Yet occasionally I'd notice him glancing my way sidelong, like he had words on the tip of his tongue but held back. One evening, as I wiped down the plates following supper, he entered the kitchen. He paused in the entrance, arms folded, wearing a somber look that set my nerves on edge. "Mind if we chat?" he inquired. I agreed with a cautious nod, setting the dish down on the counter. His voice hinted at the weight of what was coming. Nathan inhaled deeply before proceeding. "My folks are arriving this weekend." I wasn't sure how to respond. I'd only picked up a handful of detached mentions about them in passing. "Dad's health is slipping," he continued after a beat. "Issues with his heart. Mom frets excessively over him and over my life, too." I observed him quietly, attempting to gauge his intent. They believe I'm too isolated. They push for me to commit, to build a family. Nathan offered a wry grin, as though the pressure chafed at him, and I suspect they'll raise the topic once more when they're here. I cocked my head, still piecing it together. So how does this involve me? He met my eyes steadily, and in that moment, a rare glimpse emerged, one I'd never caught in him: fragility. "Lena, I have to request something substantial from you." My breath caught in my chest. "I'd like you to act as my fiancé, solely for the duration of their stay until they return to Etoria." The cloth tumbled from my grasp and hit the ground. "Pardon, my fiancé," he restated evenly, even as I spotted the strain in his clenched jaw. "No need for theatrics, just convincing enough so they see I'm stable, that I'm crafting a future that eases their minds, and Dad can shed some of his burdens." I gawked at him, lips parted, anticipating a laugh or admission that it was all ridiculous banter. But his resolve held firm. "You expect me, your stand-in maid, to instantly transform into your betrothed." His gaze warmed a touch. "You've become far more than that to me, and precisely because I rely on you. You've infused this house with vitality once more." Heat flooded my cheeks. I averted my face, feigning interest in stowing the utensils, though my grip fumbled awkwardly. "This is madness," I muttered. "Suppose I botch it? What if they uncover the deception?" "They won't," he countered with conviction. "Simply act naturally. You're genuine. You show real concern for others. That's the essence they'll perceive." The quiet lingered. Visions swirled in my thoughts. Me beside Nathan, simulating a closeness that wasn't real. His parents probing with inquiries, scrutinizing my every move for inconsistencies. My gut urged flight, a refusal to bare myself so openly. I'd devoted years to blending into the shadows. Yet here he was, urging me toward the spotlight. Still, something in his features struck me, like this plea exposed his own hurt. He loathed seeking aid, yet he pressed on. And that inner voice, the one that had trailed him through shadowed paths before, refused to abandon him now. I drew in a steadying breath, battling the dread, and at last whispered, "All right, I'll go along. But should it unravel, that's your burden." A faint grin touched his mouth. "Agreed." He moved to a cabinet and retrieved a petite velvet case. As he revealed its contents, a modest yet elegant silver band caught the kitchen's glow. He offered it to me with care. My hand shook slightly as I slid it onto my ring finger. The chill of the metal settled oddly comfortably on my skin, like it was meant to be there all along. I glanced at my image in the glass pane and felt a chill run through me. It was merely a part, a fleeting disguise. Yet the ring's presence whispered otherwise. Nathan observed without a word. His face stayed solemn, but a novel spark danced in his eyes, one I hadn't noticed prior. "Prepare yourself," he concluded at last. "My parents arrive Saturday morning." I dipped my head, a knot twisting in my gut. The serene stretch had ended. Now I needed to embody a role I'd never even imagined. As Nathan Crawford's fiancée, I awoke to a house that felt suspended in anticipation that Saturday morning. Staring at my reflection, I fidgeted with the simple blue gown he'd placed on the guest house bed the previous evening. It wasn't extravagant, yet it flowed gently against my figure, giving me a sense of fitting into this world. From his spot on the rug, Chance tilted his head, tongue lolling, almost questioning my resolve with those curious eyes. "Not entirely," I admitted under my breath, flashing a wobbly grin while my fingers traced the silver band on my hand. The door creaked open quietly, revealing Nathan, clean-shaven and dressed in a crisp shirt I'd only glimpsed in his wardrobe before, spotless. He halted briefly upon spotting me, a flush creeping up my face in that instant. "You look stunning," he murmured softly, then coughed lightly and tugged at his sleeves, as if brushing off his compliment. No chance to respond before gravel crunched under tires outside. A wave of dizziness hit me full force. His parents' vehicle pulled up to the front, shifting the air in a heartbeat. We ventured onto the veranda side by side. My pulse hammered wildly, threatening to burst free. A lady emerged first, her gaze brimming with warmth, a woolen wrap draped over her shoulders. Following her came a gentleman with silver locks, moving deliberately, each step deliberate yet cautious, like he rationed his energy. Mom. Dad. Nathan gave my hand a reassuring press and presented me. "This is Lena, my fiancée." His mother's expression flashed surprise, swiftly melting into a broad, trembling grin. She advanced without pause, enveloping me in a firm embrace, whispering, "Welcome to our family, sweetheart." I'd begun to wonder if I'd ever encounter the one who could rein in my boy. I chuckled awkwardly, but Nathan's grip steadied me. His dad, however, studied me closely before clasping my hand with solid resolve. "He's fortunate," he rumbled warmly. "Make sure he remembers." The day progressed with an effortless rhythm that caught me off guard. Lunch happened in the kitchen amid tales from Nathan's youth. His mom chuckled while describing his childhood tumble from a tree in a bid to wow his pals, and I hung on every word as though these snippets formed the missing links to the person I was discovering. Later, we strolled the grounds. Though his father's gait was measured, he gestured to hidden spots in the forest, reminiscing about coastal vacations and lazy fishing trips along the Columbia River. His tone wavered as he mentioned his delicate condition, and she linked her arm through his with tender support. Observing them, a sharp ache tugged at my heart. How long since I'd witnessed such understated yet profound devotion? Back home, his mother drew near with a modest pouch. She offered a hand-knitted woolen wrap in soft beige and slate tones. "I crafted this over the winter, unsure of its recipient," she explained, her smile radiant. "But now it's clear." The plush material in my grasp drew a soft breath from me. Aside from echoes of my own mom in a distant past, no one had ever bestowed something so personally woven, infused with endless tenderness and time. I pulled her into a close hug, concealing the sting of unshed tears. Dusk fell, and post-supper we gathered by the hearth on the porch. Talk meandered through chuckles, recollections, and easy pauses. Me, who'd long dodged such family scenes to evade outsider vibes, discovered genuine smiles on my lips, as if this spot had always been mine. Afterward, with his folks retired for the night, I lingered on the veranda, lost in the starry sky. Nathan joined me, bearing 2 steaming mugs of tea. He passed one over, and after a stretched quiet, he whispered, "They grin today like they haven't in ages." "It's simple to care for them," I said, cradling my mug. He regarded me briefly, flames dancing in his gaze. Then, in a hushed breath, he added, "You bring back what home truly means." Those words landed with a mix of gravity and grace. I gazed at him, committing the scene to heart. For the first stretch in years, I sensed no pretense. What we'd staged for his parents was evolving into authenticity. Come Sunday afternoon, as their car vanished along the drive, a profound hush enveloped the place. The space felt eerily calm, like the coziness they'd brought had slipped away too. I still clutched the wrap from his mother, its texture soothing, and I ran my fingers over it, clinging to a warmth that might never have been mine. That evening, sleep eluded me. One relentless idea looped in my thoughts. It was merely a part, nothing more. The grins, the embraces, the looks, they were all performance to soothe his folks. I'd surrendered to the mirage, and now the burden of reality pressed down. The guilt was weighing me down heavier than ever. By the first light of morning, I'd resolved to leave. With shaky hands, I stuffed my scant possessions into my backpack and grabbed Chance's leash. He gazed up at me, eyes sparkling, his tail tapping gently against the ground, oblivious to the resolve etched on my face. Right as I headed for the door, soft steps echoed from behind. Spinning around, I faced him. Nathan stood in the frame, brows knitted, like he'd anticipated this very scene. "Where do you think you're headed?" His tone was quiet yet unyielding. I gulped, pasting on a grin that never touched my gaze. It's time I moved on. You've done way more for me than I ever earned. I can't keep imposing on your kindness. He stared, as though my explanation baffled him completely. Imposing, Lena. That's how you see what happened here. I averted my eyes, gripping the leash tighter. Everything. The ring, those elaborate meals, the grins for your folks. It was all pretend. I let myself believe it was real, and that's on me. Nathan approached with deliberate slowness, stopping mere steps from me. It wasn't pretend. My breath caught sharply. When I proposed faking the engagement, it wasn't just to spin a story. He went on, his words turning tender, exposed in a way I'd never heard. I wanted them to glimpse what was already stirring inside me. This place felt hollow before you arrived. Nights dragged on in a quiet that swallowed me whole. Then you showed up, clutching a frightened pup and a notebook brimming with sketches. Life rushed back in a flood. Warmth pricked at my eyes before I could hold it off. I shook my head faintly, murmuring, "Stop. I'm nothing special." He closed the gap with one final stride, his nearness enveloping me like safety itself. "You're far more than that. You escaped a history that scarred you, yet you summoned the courage to press forward. You've transformed suffering into beauty. You nurture every soul around you, no matter how overlooked, even mine." A choked chuckle escaped amid my sniffles. "Even you worthless." Nathan's lips curved into that lopsided smile he saved for rare moments. "I've thought so plenty of times. Never around you, though." Salty trails streamed over my face unchecked. For the first time in ages, someone had picked me, not for my usefulness, not out of necessity or duty, but just for who I am. That realization shattered my walls and mended them in the same breath. Instinct took over. I let the backpack slide off and the leash slip free. My quivering fingers sought his, and he clasped them steady like he'd longed for this forever. "Stay, please," he breathed. "Not for help around the house. Stay so this doesn't fade away." That word, "we," lingered heavy and binding, outshining any vow. I managed a nod, lump in my throat, stealing my voice. Gently, without haste, he drew me into his hold, handling me like fragile glass. Forehead against his chest, I tuned into the reliable rhythm of his pulse, my dampness soaking his shirt. This embrace stood apart from any I'd known. No sympathy, no burden. It was deliberate. Chance, sensing the gravity, settled at our feet, nose nudging my shoes with a deep, contented exhale that felt like his blessing. There I remained, enfolded in Nathan's warmth with my loyal dog watching quietly, realizing after years of flight that I wasn't fleeing anymore. I was rooted. I was deciding. And in those arms, tears still flowing, I understood how a fabrication had bloomed into reality. 3 months slipped by since that tear-streaked day when I chose to remain. Days unfolded slower now, lacking the frantic pace of escape, embracing instead the ease of building something lasting. The cozy guest cottage shed its transient feel, evolving into my true haven. My sparse items gradually expanded, outfits neatly stacked in drawers, novels stacked bedside, art pads stacked on a rack Nathan built for me. Chance claimed a spot by the pane, but preferred curling up beside my toes at night. What had once seemed confining now wrapped around me comfortably, brewing morning brews, polishing panes, immersing in my illustrations while sunlight gilded the woods. Bonds with Nathan's family deepened through their drop-ins. His mom enfolded me like kin, pressing upon me her crocheted wraps or pots of homemade peach preserves. His dad, ever reserved, offered kind remarks all the same. "You've got a real knack for tending this land. It's evident," he noted one evening as we strolled the grounds. Those understated praises moved me profoundly. With Nathan, our connection deepened profoundly, unspoken yet evident in every shared glance. We were discovering partnership, day by day. Mornings kicked off with shared meals laced with chuckles, quiet evenings on the veranda where I'd sketch as he pored over documents, and rambles alongside Chance in the fading light of afternoon. Everything flowed effortlessly. What started as a spontaneous agreement had evolved into a life we shared. During one of those serene mornings, Nathan invited me to head into town alongside him. He kept the plans vague, just instructing, "Put on something cozy yet elegant." That mischievous grin of his sparked both doubt and intrigue within me. We pulled up to a modest structure boasting expansive panes of glass. Stepping inside, I was greeted by aromas of fresh oils, fresh sheets, and timber. I froze in place. My sketches adorned the walls, the woodland shrouded in fog, Chance dozing near the hearth, the cottage aglow under moonlight. There was even a side-view likeness of Nathan propped by the sill. My pulse raced. "How? What's going on?" I stammered, words catching in my throat. Nathan stepped nearer and passed me a program for the showing. "It's your display," he said simply, like it was everyday occurrence. I chatted with the curator. I hoped they'd glimpse what filled my daily view. Covering my lips with a hand, I couldn't stem the tears. Visitors strolled the space, studying my pieces closely, murmuring softly. One lady neared the desk and purchased a sketch, the cabin with wisps rising from the flue. "It radiates such tranquility, like a real sanctuary," she whispered as she settled the bill. That term, sanctuary, struck deep. For so many years I'd shunned the notion, viewing it as an illusion bound to fade, yet here it stood, etched on canvas, acknowledged by strangers. I faced Nathan, who observed quietly with his unique gaze, blending satisfaction and gentleness. "I can't fathom you arranged this for me," I uttered through the sobs. He brushed my face softly with his knuckles. "You've earned every bit. You've revived this place, Lena. Share what I've long recognized." Feelings surged through me. I'd concealed my art for ages, treating it like a guilty indulgence. Now it graced illuminated spaces, drawing praise from onlookers. This wasn't fantasy, it was tangible. That evening, as the show wrapped and the venue cleared out, Nathan guided me to a final artwork. It was the piece I'd battled hardest to complete, since it embodied all I once thought myself unworthy of depicting. A domestic tableau, Nathan and me on the veranda, Chance nearby on the ground, his folks beaming behind with a kindness I'd imagined exclusive to others' pasts. My fingertips grazed the frame, hesitant lest the scene vanish. "I believe I've quit fleeing at last," I whispered, voice faint. Nathan encircled me with an arm, pressing his mouth to my brow. "Good, since I had no intention of letting you slip away." I shut my eyes, breathing in the familiar notes of pine and brew that clung to him, and let a smile form. That evening, we made our way back. I draped the shawl from his mom near the doorway, marking it as a token. Chance curled up in his go-to spot, and I flipped open a fresh pad. No more sketching to escape. Now, to honor. For the initial time ever, I grasped the essence of belonging. Not loaned, not fleeting, a genuine haven, And as I set the graphite to the sheet with Nathan nearby and the blazes' glow warming the air, I vowed to myself I'd stay put forever. I discovered my spot, my kin, my haven, my